When new clients make contact with Philhaven, they are often experiencing a crisis, an urgent need. They need to have their current situation addressed, and they want to be heard. I'm Dr. Meryl Rice-Gibble, a licensed psychologist here at Philhaven. I know that we as clinicians want to meet the needs of our clients right from the start. And wouldn't it be great if we could just jump in and skip the intake details and paperwork pile? Unfortunately, as you know, that isn't possible. We need all the right information to provide the best, most holistic care and to ensure that insurance reimbursement and payment can take place in a timely manner. This intake session is required and very important to begin a clinician's work with a new client. I'd like to offer a way that Philhaven's clinicians can use the intake appointment and the PI, or Patient Interdisciplinary Evaluation Software, to actually be a tool that engages our clients to make sure they feel heard and welcomed while still accomplishing the goal of gathering necessary information. When I meet with a new client, I start with offering them clarity on what to expect. I usually say something like, "Today is an intake session where I'll be performing what is called an interdisciplinary evaluation. This hour will feel very different from our normal therapy. I need to get a lot of information about you in a short time so that in future sessions, we can just go right into how you're feeling and right into your day-to-day journey." I explain to them that I'll turn my computer so I can see and make eye contact with them. I want to be sure they can feel that I'm making a connection with them, even though I'm reading and typing. These first two tabs of the PI cover the client's chief complaint, current problems, and current stressors. The answers can be as long or short as the client offers. I type while they're talking to get the information down quickly, while still allowing them to talk about what brought them to us. Remember, only the fields with an asterisk are required, so if you need to move more quickly, you can skip less critical fields. When you move into the medications and medical history tabs, the client shouldn't have to repeat the information, as it should already be written on their paperwork from intake. Unfortunately, you'll still have to enter it into the PI. I usually clarify this for the client, something like, "Now I need to input some information you've already provided to us, so you don't need to repeat it. If you give me just a moment, I'd like to ask more about how you're feeling next." One thing to note in this section is that a client's family physician and phone number are required. Many don't know this offhand, so try to be prepared to Google the doctor's name to find their office contact information online. With the next tab, I pull the symptom checklist from the client's paperwork completed prior to the session. I place the checklist next to the keyboard for answers to each yes and no question. Remember to thank the client for completing this information in advance and saving time during the intake. As we move into substance abuse, each item is required. However, a faster way to complete this section is to ask a client to list every substance they've ever tried and select those as yes. For the alcohol section, you can save time by asking up front if they drink. If not, the entire section is quick to complete. The suicide tab can be time-consuming, so be sure to encourage the client that you want to learn more about them and their history. You can save time here by asking the main point of each list. For example, you can ask, "Have you experienced suicidal thoughts within the past 6 months?" And if they answer no, you can quickly select no for each corresponding question. When I fill out the reason for living question, I usually phrase this for clarity as, "I know we've been talking about a lot of difficult things, but tell me, what gives you hope?" Additionally, I only ask the reasons for ending life questions if they have mentioned suicidal thoughts or tendencies earlier in the PI. Note that on this page, a person with no suicidal thoughts would have all no's checked, except the question that asks if they can contract for safety, which would be a yes. When I complete the homicide and violence screening, I save a big chunk of time by starting at the bottom and asking about 6 months first. If they say no to the last 6 months, that certainly includes the last 72 hours. Then you can fill out some of the top without asking specifically. And here's where I say, you're doing great. We've reached the halfway point. Trauma is a difficult subject, so when we're running rapidly through all this data entry, I don't expect a person to be able to really engage in sharing their traumatic past experiences. I ask broad, non-invasive questions for general responses, which keeps the client feeling safe and at ease. It is important to ask if the client has been the perpetrator of abuse. The employment information should all be ballparked. Has the client had 1 to 2 jobs, 3 to 4 jobs, or a dozen? This helps us look for patterns, go as fast as possible, and have them estimate income since that is a required field. Even though we are recovery-based, skipping the strength section can be a way to save time. They've already completed this on paper anyway, so if time allows, you can always fill it in later. However, at least 2 responses are required, so you may need to select 2 strengths relevant to that client. If you're short on time, you can also skip treatment barriers. Usually these are obvious from the PI interview, such as if a person isn't speaking their first language or has a hearing, vision, or speech impairment. When you click on psychosocial, you'll be required to answer their living arrangement. Fill that out, and if time allows, ask them to list the people in their home. For their relationship history, focus on if they've ever been married, how many times, and long-term relationships. For their family behavioral health history, which is required, ask the same set of 4 questions for the father's side, mother's side, and so on. Looking at their education learning style, I start by giving options for how they learn best. I follow up by asking if they want to continue their education or if they had to repeat any years in school. I don't ask if they can read since they already filled out forms, so the answer is obvious. I ask if they experienced emotional difficulties in school, and I always indicate yes to "Are you motivated to learn?" It's clear because they're here in therapy. Now that we're wrapping up, I let them know that discussing their goals is critical to my understanding of their future. My favorite questions are, in 3 sessions, what would you hope to achieve? Then let's say we work together for 12 months. Is there anything else you would hope to achieve in that time frame? Their mental health treatment history is necessary, but we can only complete what they can remember. I simply ask the clients to do the best they can. Finally, when it comes to the advanced directive, if they don't have a medical directive, I don't ask separately about a mental health advanced directive. For their spirituality, I ask, how important on a scale of 1 to 10 is your spiritual life? And then follow up with, to what affiliation do you subscribe? My last question on this topic is, what activities do you do spiritually, such as prayer or meditation? The PI will require information about their support network. Ask them to describe their family's level of support, then add other supports such as friends, church, community, and more. The end of the session can feel abrupt. I strive to ensure the client really experiences eye contact and a connection with me personally. I push the computer aside and look to them saying, "Thank you for sharing all this information in a short time. This will go into our electronic health record and allow anyone in our organization to review and understand your needs so that we can all be on the same page. Future sessions won't feel like this at all. I know this probably felt impersonal, but it's important for me and other clinicians to get a picture of your background and who you are as a person before we can dive deeper into your struggles. We'll be more conversational, and next time we'll get right to work on your treatment plan."